All right. So we wanted to take this moment to talk about stuff that had unfortunately happened over the previous weekend. And we wanted to also do a little tribute to Kobe Bryant and just talk about how he affected us and how his Academy Award short affected us as well. And I wanted to say, at least for Kobe Bryant, to me, I grew up with him. My dad, he loved Kobe Bryant, and that was his favorite player. And it was a shock when my cousin texted me and was like, "Kobe Bryant just passed away." I thought it had to be a joke. And until all the news outlets reported that he did pass away, it was a shock. I was with a bunch of my friends, and we're all kind of sitting around in a circle wondering, how could this happen to this LA legend? And I did want to say that with his Dear Basketball short, it really wrapped up his whole career, and it, I want to say, affected a lot of people because he did retire after that. And I don't think anybody would have thought that this would have happened to him. But in any case, how do you guys feel about it?
It's pretty sad. Like you said, he was an LA legend. So people like that, you kind of think they're just going to live forever. Kind of take for granted their presence. Take for granted a lot of the entertainment that you grew up with that center your family gatherings. Like you said, we all grew up watching Kobe. He was something that we could have in common with our parents and our family at family gatherings when you watch the games together. So something like that where, you know, he passed away, that really affected a whole generation who looked up to him, who adopted the Mamba mentality to go after their goals and their dreams. And I think it's just like a sad time for the world, really, but especially people in Los Angeles, because I've seen a lot of tributes already from my friends. Like, we're all based in Southern California, by the way. And, you know, I see buses that have, instead of the location where they're going to, like, RIP Kobe. I mean, it's everywhere. It literally is a weight that's on all of us, and it's hanging over our heads as like a dark cloud. But I'm glad you brought up Dear Basketball, because it was a nice kind of closing of the book on his illustrious basketball career. And people forget he wasn't just driven in basketball. It just started with basketball, but he was venturing into entertainment. He was a storyteller. He didn't do anything by halves. He put his whole passion into everything he did, especially too, and we saw in the last couple of years, fatherhood. And I think that's the saddest thing about this is that, like, Gigi also passed away. But I guess I'm glad too that he seemed really happy these last couple of years in his retirement to be able to concentrate on his family, because there's nothing more satisfying and nothing gives back more than putting that. I'm sure he put his like Mamba mentality and his energy into fatherhood, and it must have been really rewarding for him, which I'm glad he got to experience that before, unfortunately passed away.
Yeah. It's interesting because one of the big themes in the Dear Basketball short was how, like, he still wants to go on, but his body is essentially failing him. Like, he's getting weaker over time. He's been doing this for so long, and he can't physically be able to do this forever. And it's both that, and then the experience of, having lost him in this way. It reminds us how fragile we are as human beings, how we're not meant to last forever. And, we all have our time to be here, and it's important that we recognize that, because it's easy to, especially being young, it's easy to experience life and not think about the fact that we have limited time here, and that even the time that we have to walk around freely, like a time, if we're lucky enough, a time may come where we're not even able to take ourselves where we want to take ourselves. And that reality is not often, thought of, but then instances like this and experiences like this that affect such a large group of people. Like, Kobe was a star worldwide. And especially being here in LA, like in Southern California, the reality of who we are as human beings and our fragile nature, it's good for us to have those reminders every now and then. It's good for us to collectively mourn so that we can be brought closer together. And I think that's part of the effect of this death. What do you guys?
Yeah, Kobe Bryant. So I'm not really the biggest like basketball fan, but I did find Kobe very interesting. Like to me, he was like a real life anime character where he really went for his goals and dreams and became a big inspiration. One lesson that I can take, especially watching his Oscar short, was this idea of just like loving the process and loving like just loving what you want to do. Like it's not just about doing it, because even he said it's not about the challenge. It was just like he just wanted to be with basketball. It was almost as if he loved basketball more than his own wife, which we can see by a lot of their drama that it's probably true. But there's a lot of beauty that came out of it. So it just shows like what happens when you really like love your art and love your craft, what beauty or talent you can get or what you can achieve out of it. So that's one thing I've learned from Kobe and the way he is. And it's like his whole progression where he used to be this cocky person to being like a wise mentor is also another like life lesson that we all can take. So I'm glad that I got to experience that. And I'm glad that he was part of, LA, Southern California, where I'm from. So it makes me more proud of where I'm at. So.
Yeah. So I'm probably the one here that knows the least about basketball and Kobe, but I suppose it's nice to have a perspective because I'm also, we're all from Southern California and I used to actually live in East LA. So my uncles, my aunts, they would all watch basketball. They would all be really into the Lakers. And I could see that pride. I could see how they all gathered and just shared this love for the game and love for the team. Kobe meant a lot to them, I'm sure. And it was still impactful in that sense that it was in my environment. And watching this short, it's very inspirational, especially for someone who's very into creating things, like just being creative in general and just having all these passions. It made me feel like I wanted to try harder, and it was just very inspirational.
I also wanted to say that the short is it's a good way for his daughters to really get to know him more too, because he does have a daughter that when she grows up, she won't remember who her father is. And I think she's like a brand new baby.
Yeah, you have a newborn.
Yeah, and it sucks because, he has a 17-year-old and I think a 12-year-old too, or it might be 9, and they'll remember him, but his new daughter won't. And I think this is a good way for her to be able to see what Kobe did. And he started since he was 17 and he passed away when he was 41. So this watching the short also, for me, it felt like it could relay into fatherhood and how he put his all into fatherhood as well. Because he didn't play basketball just for, himself and just for the sport. He also did it for his family, to be able to provide for his family. And whatever he said in the short could also be said about fatherhood, putting his spirit and soul into that. And it could just relate to that. And if I was that way, if I was Kobe's daughter, I would cry just watching that short, because I would be like, he's speaking to me too.
Mm-hmm. We all cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all get really affected by entertainers' deaths. And a lot of times haters will be like, what are you talking about? You didn't know him. Mm-hmm. But
this one was different. I feel like this celebrity death was, it wasn't like just like Anthony Bourdain die. Like that one, this one for me at least, and I think a lot of people,
Anthony Bourdain.
No, not to knock on him, but I mean, I'm just saying that for me, and I think for a lot of people, like this hits like really a lot harder.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was gonna say, because there are still like haters out there, like people that won't understand the relationship people have with someone that's just on the screen or just on the court really far away. Because they'll say, like, you didn't know him personally, blah, blah, blah. But the more closer we feel to an entertainer or like movie stars or musicians who die, it affects us because, I mean, okay, we're like kind of a movie and media podcast, right? Like we love a good story. The more better a story is, the more invested we are with it. These entertain us, like give us their lives to paint stories for us. I think Kobe is like one of the best entertainers of all time. And if you look in his life, like you said, Shuku, he used to be just like a cocky kid and he turned into like a wise sage. He painted one of the best stories of all time just by being who he is and growing. He didn't start out the best player, you know, he actually grew. He actually learned that the best way to achieve greatness is to lift other people up, which is really inspiring. And I think I like how we're relating kind of his life to the Dear Basketball short now. And we can treat his basketball career and look at his basketball career like his life, you know, now that we have to like look at it because he's, you know, he passed away. Just because something ends, I'm trying to say, just because something ends doesn't mean everything has to stop. I think the way that we can move forward is kind of keeping the Mamba mentality in mind and just lifting each other up and moving the future forward.